Show. Welcome to the Art of Healthcare show. This is where we have conversations with experts to help us get better at helping the person with the problem. Today, I'm joined by nurse Jacqui O'Connor. Jackie's been a nurse for 26 years. Lot of lived experience within the healthcare sphere, and she's developed healing and mindset modalities over that period of time, which she now shares with healthcare workers, and with the aim to empower carers and future carers how to celebrate their body and their mind, and help their patients do the same. Welcome, Jacqui.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. I always like to kick things off, Jacqui, just asking, why are you interested in the art of healthcare? Why are you interested in the people side?
Yeah, I guess I'm a kind of girl that likes to colour outside the lines. So as soon as I heard the sort of art and healthcare, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like colouring outside the lines. I'm a bit into that. Yeah. And I really believe that what we're doing isn't necessarily working for a large proportion of us. So I'm kind of here to rattle up things a bit, and rather than keep doing the same thing, actually change and just see if that does work. Yeah.
And is that a belief that you've had across your nursing career, or is that something that you've come to?
Yeah, no. I was, oh, got a dog in the mix as well. No, I was very much a nurse that just kind of got on with it, and did the skills and did the mahi, probably got on the hamster wheel a bit, and quite often would experience burnouts. And then it wasn't until 5 years ago, where I had my real big Mack truck burnout, that I thought the same thing. I need to change. This isn't working for me. So what do I need to do to thrive and to flourish and to live my best life? So yeah, that's where it came about for me.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say cool. Having a burnout is never cool, but it's cool that that it has kind of flipped the way that you look at things. And someone that I've talked to before said to me that the body always whispers before it screams. And it sounded like you maybe had a couple of whispers that were going on before that Mack truck that got you. And since you've hit that tipping point, or that pivot point, to use like post-COVID language, what have you noticed in your colleagues as well? Like, what are you seeing with that? Because I mean, the burnout that you experience probably isn't it's not an isolated one-off event that's just happened to one individual.
No. So I like you say, the whispers. So I definitely had the taps on the shoulder, and then I definitely had the 4x4 in the back of the head, and then I eventually had the Mack truck. So I don't like when the Mack truck hit. I thought I was the first and only one, so I don't ever recall kind of ever seen it. But I think because I was behaving like them as well, I was sort of the martyr victim. I was on the hamster wheel. I was using busyness and perfectionism and people pleasing. So I just didn't really notice it. On the flip side, where I kind of had an open mindset and changed the things that I was doing, and invested in myself and looked at tools and started flourishing and thriving, I was kind of looking around going, whoa, is that what I look like? But equally, as I was learning and growing, and my energy was magnetic and energetic, it was rippling effect off onto my colleagues. So I could see me being the better version of myself, me actually using helpful tools was better for more than just me. It was rippling effect off to my colleagues, and then obviously off to the recipients of our care as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask that as well. Like
Mm,
it has that spread out effect to your colleagues. But I guess, like, what have you noticed in terms of your ability to care for patients, the way you were operating pre-burnout
mm,
compared to the
mm,
way that you operate now?
mm, mm. Well, I mean, in hindsight now, I realize I just wasn't in the right places. So what I was also experiencing like moral injury, and not necessarily that there was anything morally going on within the places I was working. They just didn't fit my values. So, for example, I'd be working in a neonatal unit where it's quite task orientated. And in actual fact, where my values wanted to be, I wanted to be nurturing and supporting and empowering the mother, whereas I had to be, doing regular feeds and checks and cares, and so I was out of alignment with my values and where I wanted to be. So, um, so there was that, and so then as I kind of grew and learnt, and my inner confidence and my self-worth, and um, I really knew who I was. I then placed myself into places where I knew that I was in alignment to all that.
Mm,
So therefore then I did have the energy, and therefore because I had the energy, and with that energy, there were tools of things like boundaries, which I just blows my mind that this doesn't even enter into our training, learning that tool. And so then so then I find myself where I actually know that I'm going to thrive and be at my best, and so I don't fall into those old patterns and those old behaviors. Yeah.
yeah, and I guess it is quite easy to slip back into them, especially if you've been doing something for quite a while. You've habituated
Yeah.
yourself to operate a certain
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, like, a couple of big things that I'm hearing through there is that you needed to think a little bit more about your values, or maybe you already knew them, but you needed to put
Mm.
them into practice
Mm.
a little
No,
bit
I
more
didn't
clearly.
even know them. I didn't even know them.
Yeah, and I think like that's something that's not unusual
Mm.
as healthcare professionals. It's something that has probably been a little bit more recent for me in terms of
Mm-hmm.
figuring out what I value, and probably much more so since I became a dad. And actually,
Mm.
both my boys spent time in the neonatal intensive care unit,
There
so
you go. We're in sync.
I do understand the task orientation with that. The when you started to think about the values that you operate within, I mean, if you ask someone why are you in healthcare, they're like, because I want to
Mm.
help people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
which is admirable, but it's
Yeah.
probably not the real reason.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
Looking to think about expanding your values, or understanding your values a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
what are some tools that you've found helpful to do that?
Um, So do you mean to actually find them, to actually
Yeah,
identify them?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So one of that I love doing, and I share with my one-on-one clients, is actually think about a movie and a character in a movie that
Mm,
you love, and what is it that you loved about them. So I've actually just recently redone my values, and so I sat there and I was like, what is the character? And it's, for me, it's someone who's empowering, who's an advocate, who's authentic, and who's part of a community, and who seeks joy. So they're all my values. So it was a super easy activity, to actually identify them. And bravery, that's the other one. And
yeah.
interestingly, last year one of my words was challenge. I loved being challenged, and the reason I re-looked at my values was I was hugely challenged last year with COVID. I was
Mm,
the school nurse in front of the first cluster in New Zealand, and so I kept writing down my values: challenge, challenge, and so the universe just kept challenging me. And so I thought, I'm going to change I'm going to change my values. So I've changed them to bravery, which is, sort of similar, kind of in line. Whereas I feel like the universe can't kind of attack me so much with that. I'm hoping like a little break. And that's what I feel like I really am stepping into, into my bravery. I feel like I'm stepping into, I am being my authentic self and stepping into what I'm worth and my value. So I'm really loving that word. And when it sort of tingles, it really sort of feels warm and sparkly and glittery, you've nailed your words. So yeah, but I mean, I use my values. Even if someone says, do you want to go to the movies, I like tick through my values
Okay.
and go, yeah, okay, or doesn't really fit with my values, no, I'm all good, thanks. So it's a really lovely boundary setter, and it's a lovely way, if you've got employment opportunity, to really see, like, are my values being met? Is this where I'm meant to be? So great barometer.
Yeah, and even to check in with where you are currently as well, is like, here are the values that I have, and by the sounds of it, you've allowed yours to evolve over time, and which is really, really normal as our life circumstances change. Out of curiosity, who was the movie character that epitomized the values that you
It was Wonder Woman.
Was
Wonder
it?
Woman. Yeah. So empowerment and authenticity, community, joy, bravery, and got one more word, I can't think of it. Yeah. Wonder Woman.
Fantastic. And how different are your values now to what they were 5 years ago when you started this process?
When I started, so my words, so similar, kind of similar. Like, I still had community and still had joy, but I had making a difference. Sounds a bit cliche now. And I had challenge. So all still in line, but I just feel like mine, I've accelerated them a bit. I've lifted them up. They're sort of a bit more powerful, bit more magnetic, to sort of just making a difference. I want to empower. I want to advocate. That's it, advocate. So cool. I'm all about speaking up for the quiet people. Yeah. Awesome. And I think that's health professionals. We've tolerated a lack in value for a long time.
And do you think, like, with the evolution of your values, do you think that you've caught up to your value, you're in the process of catching up to your values, or your values are catching up to you, or is it a bit of both? Like, what goes first?
Am I catching up to my value? Catching up to me? I think we're meeting in the middle, actually. I think I feel like literally feel like I'm climbing into them and they're circling, they're cuddling me. So yeah, probably meeting in the middle, really.
Cool.
Yeah.
One of the other big things that you brought up when you were talking about the changes that have happened is boundaries. What do you mean when you say boundaries in this context?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I mean lots of things. So again, authenticity. Actually, do you know what? My tank's emptying. Do you think we could carry this on tomorrow? Would that be okay with you? And you'll get the better version of me. Or another one is, even if I want to offload to a friend or my husband or anything like that, have you got the time and space? I've got a little something to offload, so that I'm not just cold calling that and not getting getting a response that triggers me. So I'm actually giving people an opportunity to go, oh, actually, you know what? I do have the time and space, or no, but would tomorrow work, or would it be better to talk to someone else? And so the more I talk in this way, the more others talk to me in this way. So it's a ripple effect. And then equally checking in with the values, like, oh, Jacqui, can you do this? Checking in with my energy and with my inner barometer, with my inner knowing. Actually, can I? And putting a boundary out you know what, I feel like I probably can do that. Let's just check in again tomorrow and see how my load is. So
Yep.
you kind of give yourself a little bit of, it's not a no, but it's a maybe, or it's a not now.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's reasonably typical of at least the healthcare professionals that I've interacted with, is that we give so much, and often we give without boundaries, that we deplete ourselves and our energy and our ability to kind of do other things in life because we're giving so much in that moment. And again, it's something that we potentially habituate ourselves into through our work roles, but probably also from kind of our backgrounds and where we've come from as well. There's some of that there. So actually, when we start to talk about boundaries and we start to think about boundaries, that's a real challenging concept for a lot of us. We think that there's a lot of guilt associated with it, that we feel like we're letting people down. Again, where's a starting point for setting a boundary?
Yeah, well, my mantra is boundaries are for you, not against others. So
cool.
Boundaries are for you, not against others. So that helps me with that guilt trip, because I'm like, actually, I'm doing this boundary for me, not against you. I'm doing it for me, but I'm also doing it for you because you'll get the better version of me. So there's that, and that's probably my motivation into working with future carers. So I work with young women from the age of 9 years old, and empower them with their self-worth, their self-belief, and their inner confidence. And when you don't require the outside value and validation, I mean, outside value and validation is lovely, but when it's a bonus, when you can actually value and validate yourself, then using your boundaries, you've got confidence doing it. Yeah.
So if we take a kind of a step deeper into ourselves, then from the boundaries, and talk a little bit about self-worth, because I mean, self-worth is for us is often wrapped up in how many people we help, or the outcomes that we get other people, or kind of the success in doing a particular technique.
Yeah,
but that's not really self-worth. That's just
it's not
stuff that we're good at.
No, that's actually kind of self-esteem. So that's sort of outside validation value, like I was talking about. Whereas self-worth is that inner knowing, it's that inner barometer, it's that inner cheerleader. And we very rarely talk about it at homes or at schools. So that's one of my workshops is around self-worth. And each time I talk to young people about it, and because I give my examples, like, for example, I've got big curly hair, and so for many years of my life, I tried to make it small and slick, and I desperately wanted a swinging ponytail. And it wasn't until I was as an adult, and I was kind of like, oh, where did that belief come from? And this is a really good way. You kind of like look into the areas that you reject. So I was rejecting my big hair, and actually take some silence, stillness and quiet time, and actually reflect and go, where did that belief come from? And I realized it had come from, as a little girl, I was encouraged to be good and to be quiet and to be spoken to when I was spoken to, and to be orderly and pretty and tidy. And so I had just had this belief that I needed to be small and unseen. And so when I realized that was a limiting belief and it didn't serve me, I just went like that with my hair. So it's super fun when you kind of go through all those areas, your shadow side that you reject, and you're kind of like, well, why am I? And then you actually just simply decide, well, that story is not serving me, I'm changing the story.
Mm.
Very powerful.
Yeah. So it's kind of looking at the parts of yourself that you maybe don't like so much or that you
Hmm.
feel ashamed of, and starting
Hmm.
to investigate them a little bit more deeply.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, sometimes it's like I was working with a client yesterday, and she's highly intelligent, a woman who's highly intelligent with a university degree, you know, early ago. So and she triggers a lot of people. They think she's a know-it-all, but in actual fact, she's highly intelligent. And
Mm.
what she's done is she's dumbed herself down so that she can fit in. So she's rejected a pretty impressive part of her,
Mm.
so that she can kind of fit into society. Yeah, and in actual fact, she's just not vibing with her tribe.
Yeah. And what like if people are trying to fit in, and they're trying to
Hmm.
repress parts of themselves,
Hmm.
which often happens working in a system, especially a system where things are task orientated and needed to be
Mm.
ticked off.
Hmm.
What happens to us as people? Like, where do we end up?
Yeah, well, I think that's where you sort of see behavior, you know, that real kind of gossipy, moany groany victim martyrdom behavior. Got the t-shirt, done it, so no
Yeah.
judgment. Um, so I think, yeah, when you're vibing in that energy, you lower down to it. So
Mm.
um, you only, you know, vibe as high as the energy is. So if it's low grade and a bit hummy with gossip and moaning, then you actually get attracted to that energy. So yeah, personally, I don't like it, and I won't tolerate it, and I actually won't put myself in that situation anymore.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah,
Good boundaries.
yeah, and it's good, and it means I have a cool life
Mm.
because I vibe with my tribe, and I choose where I spend my energy, and I choose to spend my energy in high vibing spaces. So
Yeah. I mean, what would you say to people who kind of counter that a little bit with look, this is the way that it's set up. It is what it is here. I've got
hmm.
responsibilities that I
Hmm.
need to fulfill.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um, I need to be here. I need to stay here. What would
yeah.
you say to someone who comes back with that?
I'd be like, why do you need to stay here? Why do you need to tolerate this? That's what I'd
Mm, yeah.
say. Yeah. And then I would get back, well, who would be the bedside nurse? And I'd be like, well, we won't have any, and then the system will change. So if we keep feeding the system, if we keep enabling it, then it won't change. But
Mm,
I mean, you look at COVID, look how many things happened overnight. You know, homeless people were in beds, you know, like there was just amazing stories of overnight, you know, our vaccine, you
yeah.
know, within, yeah, like, but all we've done is we've enabled this behavior. And so it continues.
Mm. I think there's often kind of there's a short-term hurt with change, kind of stepping
Mm.
into that uncertainty
Mhm.
around change, especially for us, is that we know what we're in for, um, when we're kind of working a certain way, and we kind of we,
Mm-mm.
we tell it to ourselves, it's not that bad. It's I'll put up with it, and often the,
Yeah.
the changes that you talked about in terms of kind of dropping down your energy levels, that they're a little bit insidious. They happen over time,
Mm. Mm.
and you don't notice them, like those whispers and the
Mm.
what two before in the back of the head as well.
Yeah.
They creep up on us slowly, and
Mm.
so
Mm.
because of that, we put up with things. It's like the kind
Mm.
of the frog in the pot of water that you gently heat up. I
Mm.
found out the other day that's not true. Like if you turn the heat up, the frog's just going to jump out.
Jump out.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. Boom. Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, if you toss it into a pot of boiling water, then it's stuffed.
Yeah.
But the analogy is kind of still makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I hear you, but I also believe that we've got a lot of societal conditioning and societal norms that we could change. Like why do we have to work 40 hours a week? You know, why don't we work less? You know, and so more of us work, but we work less. So there's lots of things that we've got beliefs embedded in us that I actually think if a lot more of us sat with them and sort of actually thought where they come from and how they're serving us, then you know, you look now, even particularly since COVID, you know, people are getting employed to do a job. They're not getting employed to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You know, so you get the job done, we'll pay you. So it is happening. There are changes, and there's lots of little solutions too in healthcare that I think could make, just the little things make such a big difference.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, and I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit because I've been sitting with a lot of these questions over the last few years.
I love being challenged.
And these are the responses that I've been giving myself in my head as well. So it's nice to hear some external validation from someone else.
Yeah. Oh well, you're welcome.
Jacqui, I guess I want to ask, like, what should we do tomorrow then? So how can we start to, one, deliver healthcare a little bit more authentically, but be true to ourselves?
Yeah. So I've got a great answer for that. I think it's great. So our youth are in mental crisis. So I mean, we're the highest suicidal rate in the OCD in New Zealand is, so it's nothing to be proud of. And I believe that what we're offering is not working, clearly. But I also believe that their frontline staff, so the people that are educating them, the people that are caring for them, and as well as their parents, are all not looking after themselves as well. So, you know, there's all this self-care bandering around, but it's more than self-care. It's actually, you know, investing in our wellness, but all of us, not just like, oh, my kid's going through this, I'm going to send them here. It's actually like, you know, you're a barometer of what they're going through. You're the energy that they're spending time with. So let's all invest in our wellness, so that we can all benefit. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, rather than saying, that's what they're going through, I'll support them. Actually, you know, the only thing that you can do is you. So if we all did us, if we all invested in ourselves, then we would see a real rise in wellness. So that's definitely something. I also think we need to have, absolutely desperately, like I'm begging, like I've written to the government, that we need support at the top of the cliff. So where the fences, so not down at the ambulance at the bottom, and then in the ambulance, Warrant Fitness has run out and it's tired and it's rusty, and
people keep landing on it.
3 months wait before it comes, and in some services. So actually, I really truly believe we need to get some people hammering the fence in real tight, and that's the sort of stuff I love. That's the sort of stuff I do with my workshops and with my one-on-ones. So it's actually looking at how we can stay well, rather than how we recover from an illness.
I'm 100% on board with that, and I think that might be a conversation for a different day. We'll have to get you back to talk around that stuff, because I love the fence at the top of the cliff analogy.
I love kind of like looking at root cause rather than band-aiding.
Jacqui, if people have been loving what they've been listening to today or watching,
Yeah.
and want to find out more about you or
Yeah.
connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So I'm heartplace.co.nz, and on social media I'm Heartplace with Nurse Jacqui, so JACQUI, not to get mixed up with the other Nurse Jacqui.
Yeah.
And then I'm on LinkedIn as well, actually under Nurse Jacqui too. Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, and I'll put some links to that in the notes for the
Yeah.
show. But Jacqui, thanks so much for joining me today to have this conversation. It's been awesome.
You're welcome. Thanks, Chris.
And one more thing before I go, I've got a private community that just kind of want to extend themselves a little bit more in these areas as well. And I always ask people at the end, do you have a question to leave us with that is going to challenge the way that we think about maybe ourselves or the way that we deliver healthcare?
Yes, I do. And my question is, what are you doing to invest in yourself to be a well-being?
Cool.
Yeah.